You're watching State of Texas in Depth on KXAN News.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for State of Texas in Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle. Upset over recent National Security Administration surveillance revelations, state lawmakers throughout the nation are proposing bills to limit police tracking people, and the measures have come from both Republicans and Democrats, certainly an unusual mix of political partnerships. Last year, Texas passed a law for more protections against email surveillance, but the California governor vetoed a similar bill because he said it was too difficult for police to follow. Other proposals states are considering right now include one in Oregon that would require urgent circumstances to get cell phone location data. Another plan in Delaware would increase privacy protections for text messages, and another bill in Colorado would limit the government from saving images from license plate readers. Also in Missouri, there's a proposal for a state ballot measure to add electronic data to the list of property protected from unreasonable search and seizure. And in Indiana, a bill to ban the warrantless use of a portable device that can track cell phone movements within a mile. Late last year, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst sent Republican lawmakers in Washington a letter asking them to look into whether the NSA tapped phones at Texas gun shows or tracked gun purchases there. A recent University of Texas poll showed 81% of Texans see the NSA as a threat to their privacy. Some politicos saw Dewhurst's letter as a chance to grab conservative voters in his re-election bid in a primary where he's accused of not being conservative enough. In the Republican runoff for his office, he faces Senator Dan Patrick of Houston, who is a Tea Party favorite and got more votes than Dewhurst in round one. The winner will face Democratic nominee Senator Leticia Vanderpute this November. Last month, President Barack Obama proposed changes to store the bulk telephone data collected by the NSA outside the government. He says this would reduce the risk of abuse and limit the number of people being watched. But some congressional leaders have said the president's plan won't work and that many Americans don't understand threats that could arise if the government gave up this control. The president has said the NSA sometimes needs to tap phone records to find links to suspected terrorists. Around the country this week, the South by Southwest Festival here in Austin made headlines as the accused NSA leaker spoke remotely in the U.S. for the first time. Appearing by satellite from Russia, Edward Snowden talked about surveillance and online privacy. Snowden says the government should individually target people rather than skim mass amounts of data, as is the case right now. He talked about collection and security, saying companies do not need to hold data for long periods of time.
They're setting fire to the future of the internet. And the people who are in this room now, you guys are all the firefighters. And we need you to help us fix this.
Snowden appeared to have no regrets about exposing the U.S. government's surveillance methods. KXAN's Kevin Schwaller has an in-depth look from the event.
Privacy and surveillance are emerging among the themes at this year's South by Southwest.
I think the problem for most of us who are just average, everyday internet users is that we can't opt out of the spying.
The president of the nonprofit group Free Press spoke with us about the extent to which not only the government, but companies are getting our data.
You know, there's tools we want to use, things we need to do just to participate in modern society, and a lot of companies are pulling a lot of information about where we go, what we do, where we visited.
A U.S. Senate report found your data online is fueling what it calls a multi-billion-dollar industry that largely operates hidden from consumer view.
What I don't think that people realize so much, unless they end up in a jail cell because of it, frankly, is the extent to which those corporations are sharing your information with government agencies.
If any of the tracking or sharing makes you uncomfortable, this South by panel recommends software that makes it more difficult to track your information. Nathan Freitas is the founder of the Guardian Project. He deals in software that does just that.
You show how it's possible, and you make the code and resources available for startups and corporations to do this, so they will. I think there is a business model for privacy.
Whether more companies test that business model after this year's South by is yet to be seen. In Austin, Kevin Schwaller, KXAN News.
At South by Southwest, we got to see one very interesting use of a drone. Austin-based Chaotic Moon Studios demonstrated this crime-fighting drone that fires tasers from the air. The engineers say drones have a lot of potential if used correctly. Just last week, a federal judge dismissed the Federal Aviation Administration's only fine against a drone operator. Still, the FAA is expected to propose widespread rules and regulations on drones this November. The agency has selected Texas as one of 6 states to participate in testing and research to determine those rules. The state has one of the largest test sites, ranging from West Texas to the Gulf Coast to Brazos Valley. The testing is expected to have an $8 billion impact on the state's economy and create around 1,200 jobs. The state legislature took steps last year to define proper drone usage. The new law includes exemptions for education and research and defines how law enforcement can use drones. Violations carry a misdemeanor penalty punishable up to $2,000 fine and 180 days in jail depending on the crime. The ACLU says Texas is one of just 9 states with laws limiting drones. From the sky to cyberspace, Texas Republican Michael McCall, the chair of the U.S. House Homeland Security Committee, says cyber attacks are a top national security and economic threat, and we cannot wait for a major strike. The recent Target incident that compromised the personal credit information of 110 million Americans brought more urgency to the matter. In the aftermath, McCall has sponsored the National Cybersecurity and Critical Infrastructure Protection Act of 2013. It makes improvements to the Homeland Security Act and how we protect our infrastructure from cyber terrorism. Coming up, we speak with Congressman McCall among South by Southwest major music scene, how he says the recording industry can play a role in national security when State of Texas In Depth returns.